Yesterday, TMZ broke the video of Ray Rice punching his then fiance, now wife, inside the elevator, the footage we hadn't seen before. The NFL subsequently suspended him indefinitely. The Ravens cut him. This is a huge mess in the NFL right now, Tommy. If the NFL did indeed see this video before TMZ revealed this information, or even if they didn't see the video but decided not to try to find the video, do you think Roger Goodell should be ousted as commissioner?
Oh boy, this is a tricky one. I mean, it's one of those things. You make one bad decision. Is it really a bad decision where your whole entire life should be changed? And in this situation, I think maybe yes.
Are you referring to Roger Goodell or Ray Rice right now?
I'm referring to both. I think that Roger Goodell, people have been skeptical of him for a while now, thinking he's sweeping a lot of stuff under the rug, and now he's finally getting caught on it, if they do in fact find out that he has seen this video. And I think that he's got his coming.
So you think that Roger Goodell is going to be ousted before, the end of the season?
I don't think it's going to be that soon. I think it might. It wouldn't shock me if he was not the NFL commissioner in 2015. I will say that though. I don't know if it'll happen during the season, during the off season, when, but it would not shock me. I give it a 50-50 shot.
See, for me, I have a much bigger problem with society as a whole and the media because Roger Goodell is definitely accountable. He is to blame in this situation, and if they didn't seek out, they're the NFL. They could have found this video if they needed to. If they didn't see this video ahead of time, it's because they didn't want to see the video because it was too damaging and it was, it's like ignorant, it's better to be ignorant than guilty, whatever.
Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss, of course. But the bigger issue I have is right now, Greg Hardy is currently under investigation for domestic abuse. I think he was just found guilty of it, of like potentially attempted murder with his fiance or girlfriend. Nothing's being said about that. There are so many more of these cases that happen every year in the NFL and in sports as a whole, and no one ever says anything about them. The only reason the NFL even had to address this at all is because there was damaging video footage found. If it weren't for this video footage, no one would be talking about this at all. So I have a problem with the media and society in today's day and age in the fact that they only blow stuff up when they know that it's something that can generate a lot of hype and a lot of clicks on whatever website they have or whatever blog they're sharing or whatever that might be. Because this has been a problem that's been in the NFL for far too long, that's never been addressed, and people talk about, well, it's a boys league and this, they don't know how to manage conflict because it's, there's too many guys in power and they just think they're bigger than everyone. Well, maybe it's because no one's ever countered them in the past. No one's ever inquired about any other rulings they've had. I mean, look at all the other domestic abuse cases. Look at other scenarios. I mean, Dante Stallworth, drunk driving, hit someone, killed them, was back in the league. You have Josh Brent, who got a 10-game suspension for involuntary manslaughter, killing one of his friends drinking and driving. But you have everyone focused on this Ray Rice thing just because a video came out. There's such hypocrisy, and that's what really frustrates me the most, is that this is not a new thing, but everyone's acting like it is.
Well, let me ask you this then. Say you commit a crime that makes you go to jail for 6 months. Doesn't matter what it is. You serve your time. Should you then be allowed to go back to wherever you were working?
I think the problem here is that this video is just so damaging because we've seen it with pretty much every other circumstance where people get forgiven. America loves to forgive. Michael Vick's back in the league. I know that's a little bit different with
But that's my point. That's my point. I mean, Michael Vick served jail time. He served actual jail time and then got out. So is that enough of a punishment? I mean, in the eyes of the government and the judicial system, that is your punishment, is you are out of society for X amount of time.
Well, the other problem you have here is that the judicial system isn't doing anything about it. I mean, that's a whole other issue.
Saying.
That's a whole other issue. There's no charges being pressed. And another angle that I don't think anyone's really bringing up that we need to think about, I'm not justifying this by any means, but Ray Rice's wife came out today basically scolding the media for ruining her life and just trying to generate stories to get clicks when she's trying to preserve her life and her family's life, and the shame that she has to watch this video over and over. She was basically just she was getting after the media for this, and it makes me think, when Roger Goodell and the NFL met with them, she may have been pleading she may have been talking about how they progressed in their relationship. And, you know, they talk about it with domestic abuse cases a lot, how the victim oftentimes, you know, doesn't necessarily stick up for themselves. It kind of goes back to the guy. And in this situation, I think there might have been stuff going on behind closed doors where they were really trying to cover it up, and she had Ray Rice's back more than you could ever imagine. And I think that might have made it a little more difficult of a situation when you don't have the victim admitting that her husband did anything wrong or even wanting to press any type of charge.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, I don't know what their relationship's like. Obviously, I would never advocate what happened, and I don't think it was right. Obviously, but if the person who's the victim, it's just tough because can you really take her word for it? Is she so afraid of Ray Rice that she doesn't want to say anything on the contrary? So you can't really take that. You you can't take that as being necessarily the 100% truth because reality is you don't really know because maybe she's just trying to preserve herself for later and she's afraid of the consequences of what might happen if she does actually press charges even if she really wants to.
And you also got to think she's in a tough position because she probably loves this guy more than anything. He's also supporting her. You know, she has a family. I think they have a kid. And now this thing happens, and, you know, we're obviously, hopefully, this is an isolated incident, the only time this has happened. By no means am I defending this at all. I mean, if you watch the video, it's absolutely atrocious what happens. But you think about it from her standpoint, you know, you love someone so much and something like this happens, and everyone likes to think, oh yeah, I would ditch them in a second, I would get rid of them the second that type of thing happens. But life's more complicated than that. I'm not excusing anything. I mean, this was downright awful what he did. He deserves the indefinite suspension. And let's be clear, if Roger Goodell didn't try to find out more about this situation, or he did know about it, he should be out as commissioner. I mean, this is ridiculous. They're two separate issues, though. The NFL has been hiding this stuff for a very long time, and the media has never, or society's never really pushed to find out that much more. So that's the one thing I have an issue with, like I said before. And then the second thing I think people need to think about is that if you're actually in that position, it's a much murkier situation than just black and white. Oh, I'm never talking to this guy again. I know it seems like everyone would say that, but I would like to see what happens when you actually get put in a situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to, I mean, I guess a softer way of putting it is if you've ever been cheated on. A lot of people will always say, oh, if anyone cheated on me, I'd be done with them in a second. But you see it over and over and over where that's not necessarily the case. So I guess that would be a softer version of it, maybe something that you would not get arrested for, but something that is more relatable to people. And I think it's the same thing. I mean, people will say, oh, if someone ever laid their hands on me, I would leave them in a second. But at the end of the day, sometimes they don't. So I see where you're coming from.
And I think that's just a bigger problem that we're seeing today with, you know, how global, how the internet and social media has changed everything. Like Peter King's just getting completely just vilified on Twitter and online because supposedly he had a source that said the NFL had the video back in July. Now he's claiming that, you know, he made a mistake. He can't vouch for that source. And people are tearing him apart, saying, you know, they've read him for years and now they'll never read anything from him again. And just, you know, how terrible a journalist he is after he's done some great work over 30 years. And I think what happens is people just, you know, it's this mob mentality where everyone seeks out to just blame someone and talk shit to them and, you know, kind of hide behind the internet wall. And think about your own life. I mean, and your daily job and your daily life, people make mistakes. I'm not defending Ray Rice at all, by any means. I'm just talking about a bigger problem I think we have in society right now, where people are so quick to judge and so people are so quick to criticize while they're committing similar actions in their own life. I'm not saying everyone's hitting their wife. I'm just saying I think people are really hypocritical and very quick to judge when it comes to these things.
And I totally agree. I mean, I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of. I mean, I've never done what Ray Rice did, but I've done some stuff that I would not want other people to know about. I've made some mistakes in my life. And if there was a camera on me during those periods of time and it's all over the internet and everyone knows about it, I'd be pretty upset, to be honest with you. And especially, there is a lot of hypocrisy in the world. Again, I agree with you, especially with the internet. It is way, way, way too easy to find mistakes that people have made. And you look at Peter King, too. If this happens 20 years ago, does anyone even really remember? But now that everyone can go click and find his old articles and go back and read it, now all of a sudden he's a total villain. So, you know, people do make mistakes, and the problem with the internet is it's really hard to erase those mistakes when it's all over the World Wide Web.
I think that's a perfect segue to our next topic, Tommy.